Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue. We're going to be looking at Enneagram Type 7 today, and we're going to be talking about the story of your life. And this information comes from this book called Deep Living by Roxane Howe Murphy. And let's jump into it. Before we do, just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. I do Enneagram and relationship coaching. You know, the Enneagram is a very useful tool in helping us to understand a lot more about ourselves and our partners in life, and can really, help the process of getting along and being more compassionate and having a better marriage and better relationships. So if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to work with you. I have 3-week, 6-week, and beyond plans to walk with you in this life. I also have a lot of different on-demand courses available if you're interested in becoming an Enneagram coach or a relationship coach. Many different programs to choose from. Thanks to my patrons. I really appreciate your support. And if you just go to my homepage and join my Enneagram community, I have a free download, a free gift for you, just to say thanks for being a part of this movement. All right, so let's jump into Type 7s today, and let's talk about the story of your life. And of course, you guys know I am an Enneagram Type 7, Wing 6, the social type. And so I understand what she's talking about here from a very, insider perspective. And so what I always want to do is I just want to read the little story or the narrative that she has. She has one of these for each of the types. And I'm going to be, producing videos on each of these. But so let's take this apart and let's talk about it. If you are a 7, I hope this is helpful to you. Or if you have someone in your life that you're trying to get along with that is a 7, I hope this helps you, have a better understanding of their perspective and what it must be like to be inside their head. Okay, so let's jump into this information and talk about it. She says, as a small child, you were filled with curiosity and a sense of adventure and wanting to try everything you could. So life was an endless source of possibilities to be experienced. And I would say, yeah, of course. And it's hard for me to imagine that other kids didn't think this way, or that this isn't the way everybody thought. And I'm sure that's part of what it means when we understand the Enneagram, is we realize other people don't think this way. Like, help me understand, what was it like for you, or what is it like in your head? But certainly as a kid, I remember being very fascinated with toys and imagination and playing cops and robbers and fire department and all these, all of these things. Go outside and play. And if I was inside, I wanted to play. My brother, who is a 1-wing 9, would sometimes play with me, but kind of like as long as the TV was on, and his face was toward the TV, he'd play with me. But I don't think he had the same active imagination that I had, and the same need to always be doing something or always be entertained in some way. When I was a kid, I used to get in trouble for talking out of turn. Big surprise. Talking on the bus too loud and, creating a disturbance for the bus driver. I'd sit right behind him, which was a mistake. And then to get too loud and laughing too hard, and the bus driver would turn around and scold us for being too loud. And then I'd get in trouble for that because my brother was on the bus and he was sort of the security guard, 1-wing 9. And he would tell on me, and I would get in trouble for that. And none of that really seemed to stop until my parents decided, you know what? No television for you for the weekend. Now that, no cartoons, no Scooby-Doo, no Woody Woodpecker, for the weekend, that got my attention. That felt horrible. So yes, that need to, that looking at catalogs and circling, that was before the internet, right? So you look at Sears catalogs or Penny's catalogs and you would circle all the toys that you were interested in. And then, just when you'd get one G.I. Joe, you needed the rest of the set, So yeah, I get what she's saying. You moved quickly between different activities and nothing held your interest for very long. So God forbid your parents decide that you need to take piano lessons, or worse, violin lessons. And you could track with it for a while, but really hard to sit still, really hard to care about playing the violin. Or, one of the things I remember as a young kid and I don't mean to make this video all about myself, but I'm probably going to, just because it's my experience, and all I know is my own experience. I remember as a kid, the Cincinnati Reds, we started out in Louisville, Kentucky, and of course everybody in Louisville has to be a Reds fan, and because it was the closest baseball team. And in 1978, 79, whatever, 77, the Reds were, a tremendous team. And, my older brother wanted baseball cards, and Dad would pick us up baseball cards, and we would open them up. And, I remember thinking it was so much fun. But to me, I didn't care about baseball. I couldn't make myself sit there and watch a game. I didn't care how good the team was. I had fun getting the cards and chewing up all the gum, because they used to put gum inside the cards. So I'd chew the gum and I'd look at the cards and I would trade. I enjoyed getting the cards and the process, the game of the cards, but I couldn't care less about baseball. Like, it's so boring to sit and watch a game. And I remember at some point after collecting all these cards and, having like a complete set of all these cards, just looking at them and thinking, I don't care about any of this. Like, I don't care about the cards. I don't care about baseball. Like, I don't get it. I would never want to sit and watch a game. And I used to play baseball, and I would stand out there in the field and just be so distracted and, not care, just daydreaming. And one day I just told my brother, you can have all these cards if you want them. I don't care. And I think that's one of the ways that sevens could look generous is we collect a bunch of stuff, and then we look at it and we're like, I don't really like this. Like, it was more about the collecting. It was more about the adventure of opening up a new package, seeing what I have, matching them up. Do I have a complete set? It was more about that than it was about owning the actual baseball cards. Like, I didn't care about baseball. I didn't care about the cards. But I enjoyed the game or enjoyed the process. And I've discovered that principle many, many more times in my life as I look back. For a while I wanted to get records, albums, LPs, whatever they're called, after, CDs came out, and I'd moved on to an iPod, and I was a big iPod guy. I had to download all my favorite music, because I was collecting music. But then I got excited about albums because they were cheap and you could buy them at Goodwill and you could find them at thrift stores. And so I had this massive collection of records. And then one day I was just like, why do I have this? Like, I don't care about these records. I've got all the music I could want. And now, of course, with Amazon Music and Spotify, all that stuff is pretty ridiculous. I mean, I get it. It's, if you like it, fine. But I just want you to see, like, over and over again in my life, comic books and records and stamps and just all these little collections of stuff, books, that I had to. And then I just see that pattern over and over again in my life. I think back to when I was in high school, and this feels like one of those videos like old times with Professor Tom. But I remember back in high school when my mom would give me lunch money on Monday morning. She'd give me enough money to last the whole week. Big mistake. Just big mistake. If you have a 7 kid, big mistake. Mom would give me whatever it was, $15, $20, and it was supposed to buy my lunch for the whole week. Lunch was only like $3, back then at a public school. Lunch was only like $3, $4 or something. And she'd give me $20 or whatever on Monday. And then when I would ride the bus to school on Monday morning, right across from the school was a gas station. And a lot of the students would go over to the gas station and get junk, before school. Well, Monday morning, I'd march right over there to that gas station, and I would get a whole assortment full of treats, cookies, candy, soda, chocolate milk, Twinkies, whatever, nonsense. And then they had magazine section. And so oh, look, there's the Metal Edge, the magazine with all the rock stars in it, probably most of them sevens, Aerosmith and Van Halen and Kiss and all these bands, and so I would have to get the magazine. Oh, they got a surfing magazine. Oh, they got a skating magazine. They got Thrasher magazine. They got Surfer magazine. And so I'd buy 2 or 3 of these magazines, and I didn't read them. I didn't read the magazines. I would just flip through, look at the pictures, the good pictures that I like, I'd cut them out and put them on my wall, and then my wall was filled from, floor to ceiling with all of these pictures cut out of magazines, rock stars and surfing and skating. And I thought, man, I'm really cool. I don't think I ever read an article in any of those magazines. I didn't have the willingness to focus or discipline myself at the time to actually read any of these magazines. But I just wanted, my dad would say it like this, Tom, money burns a hole in your pocket. Money burns a hole in your pocket. I can't tell you how many times he said that to me when I was a kid. And then, now I got a real problem because the whole week I don't have lunch money. I worked a job. I had a job, and I would spend my money on, a lot of it I spent on my car eventually, but I didn't have lunch money. And then I'd be hungry all week. And it's like, sooner or later, you should learn this lesson. But I didn't learn it quickly. Like, it took a long time for me to learn this lesson. That impulse to, I need this thing I don't have. I need this magazine that takes me out of this little teenage world where I'm boxed in and stupid school and stupid work and stupid home. And I can, expand and surf in California, and I can ride skateboards in LA, and I can be a rock star in Hollywood, I just look back at that and I'm like, oh my goodness, so many bad decisions that are just impulses and compulsions now I realize of type 7. So you moved quickly between different activities and nothing held your interest for long. I'd watch these karate movies, and then we go get the broomstick, and I'd be back in the backyard spinning my broomstick, and I was, kung fu karate master. And then I'd watch the creature feature movies, on Saturday afternoons, all these B horror movies, and I'd ride my bike down to the, to the local 7-Eleven, the gas station, and I'd get a bag of candy. Jolly Ranchers and all kinds of nonsense. I had to be out. I had to be out riding my bike. I had to be out doing something. Everybody else would be like sitting at home, like potatoes. They'd just be sitting at home like potatoes on a shelf. I'd be like, how can you guys sit at home? There's a big, beautiful world out there. Let's get on our bikes. Let's ride around the neighborhood. Oh, look, they're building houses over there. Let's go ride over there. Oh, look, they got doorknobs. They're just throwing away. I'm going to bring home a bag full of doorknobs. Okay, so nothing held your interest for very long. At an early age, perhaps around the age of 3, something happened in your family that left you feeling prematurely cut off from your mom, your nurturing figure. Perhaps she went back to work or got sick or had another baby. All you knew is that your source of nurturing was no longer available as available as she had been. And this withdrawal of her constant care was a source of much pain, more pain than you felt you could tolerate. Well, maybe kind of. At 3 years old, I don't know if I remember much at 3 years old, but I guess I could remember being a kid and mom being busy. My mom was a great mom, but she was a mom. She had other things she had to do, and she was a stay-at-home mom when we were little. Dad worked, and mom stayed at home with us, and mom would do things with us and entertain us, but then, she can't and I think the heart of this is, as a 7 kid, you want something to do. Give me something to do. What are we doing today, right? And so you go to Mom, what are we doing today? Mom, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we go to this store? Can we do this thing, right? And Mom does a lot of those things with you, but then eventually the entertainer here, a 7, needs constant entertainment. And eventually, Mom or Grandma or Dad or somebody says, oh my goodness, we just did this, we just watched this, I just read this book with you, now it's time for you to go to find something on your own to do. Get out from underneath my feet. I've been entertaining you all day long. The entertainer has to be entertained. And so I've been entertaining you all day long. Go outside and play. Go get your toys. Go find something to do. And I think, every kid hears this same message, but for 7s, this is a little more painful or a little more, stark for us because we so desperately want to be entertained. We so desperately want something to do. We don't want to sit still. We don't want to be bored. And they've been playing with us probably more than they've been attending to anybody else, but it's not enough because we're gluttons and we want constant something to do. And eventually they just say, oh my gosh, just get out, go do something else. And I've seen this now when I look at other families who have a kid who is a type 7, and you're like, oh my goodness, this kid is just constant energy, constant need for somebody to interact with them, somebody to do something with them. And eventually the parents just say, oh my goodness, go outside and play, go call your friend, go to your friend's house, do something else. And this is going to be a source of pain, but I mean, it's real. You can't entertain somebody, and it's not your job as a parent to entertain your kid 24/7. And being bored isn't necessarily the worst thing that can happen to us, but it does feel very painful as a 7 to be bored. Boredom feels like pain, and pain is something to be avoided in a 7's mind. I realize that pain can be a very good thing for us and a great teacher for us. And boredom, I think if we could sit with boredom and learn to sit with boredom a little longer, we could become more focused, more peaceful, deeper people. But as little 7s, we're not going to understand that, and we're not going to want to sit with boredom. So at some point, you made the unconscious decision. You decided, well, I can't trust someone else to take care of me, so I'm going to have to take care of myself. I'm going to have to go out into this world. I'm going to have to imagine, myself fighting, the enemy in the backyard with my machine guns and my swords. I'm going to have to get my little army soldiers out in my sandbox, and I'm going to have to entertain myself. I'm going to have to go out there and see what's out there in this world. I'm going to get on my bike and I'm going to ride around the neighborhood and I'm going to find stuff. I'm going to find people. I'm going to find things to do. So I've got to take care of myself. I'm not going to wait around and waste time and feel sorry for myself. I'll just make sure I get what I want. And, there's really no end to this wanting of things, or of needing something to do, or of being attended to. Now, it's probably not easy for a 7 to hear this, but I've said this to myself, and now I say it to other 7s, when they're talking about their relationship problems, or they're talking about how people aren't attending to them. And it's just a very painful thought, but it's a healthy thought to think of. Is I just look at it and I say, wow, you sure do require a lot of nurturing. And that is a kind of a sobering thought. Like, I don't want to believe that about myself. Like, wow, I really do require a lot of nurturing. I need somebody to nurture me. Tom, are you okay? Tom, can I attend to your needs? Tom, what would you like to do today? How can I come alongside of you? And, it's like, do I really want to be the person that just requires a lot of nurturing? That doesn't feel good, to say that out loud. But as a 7, just notice how much nurturing you expect. And if you don't get it, you go off and nurture yourself. Well, I'm going to go buy this thing I don't need, and I'm going to add it to my collection of stuff that I don't really care about. How many times have you done this in your life? Do you struggle with this? Am I the only one? I don't think I'm the only one. And to some degree, I think that even my education, my focus on the next degree and of going off and taking classes, to some degree, it's a little bit motivated by this 7 stuff. I just want to go and learn stuff. I want to go and find out more things and go off to class. And it's hard to sit still and it's hard to listen, but I really enjoy keeping my mind focused on something. What else am I going to do if I don't go off and take classes and learn things? And work on degrees and work on education all up to my 40. About 38 or 39 is when I finished my formal schooling. So I was in school all the way till about 38 or 39 years old. And I think a lot of it, I wasn't motivated that I need to prove my worth and value, or I want people to take me seriously, or I want to be a PhD. I was motivated by, I love learning. I love information. I love finding things out and thinking about things and taking new classes and new perspectives and being challenged and being inspired. It's all the stuff I love to do and help other people with. But at the heart of it, part of what's motivating, I have to realize now, is just I don't want to sit here and not think about something. I don't want to sit here and do nothing. That doesn't feel good. But that may be exactly what I need to face as a 7, is allowing myself to just be a person and not always be, having something to focus on or something that my attention's going after. Sometimes just being okay, being at peace. And like any other glutton, you can have gluttony of information or gluttony of knowledge or gluttony of classes to take as well. Okay, wow, deep stuff. At another level, I made a decision not to feel pain. I felt like it was a waste of time. Now, I would say as a kid, there's a couple of things that were very painful for me. Now, I grew up in a very good home, loving parents, attentive parents, hardworking, salt of the earth kind of people from a great family, right? But we moved when I was in 4th grade. We moved from our home where all of our family, extended family was. We have a huge extended family. We interacted every week with that family. And we moved all the way from Louisville to Tampa in Florida. And that was a very painful thing. Although I loved Florida and I enjoyed growing up there, I remember early on, the first couple of years, feeling a lot of sadness just from being cut off from all the rest of the family. And we would fly up to Kentucky and we would visit with family and then we'd fly back home. And it just was never the same. And a lot of our family would come down to visit us, free vacations in the summer. And we would get to spend time with our family when they'd come down to visit us. But I just remember sitting there listening to these sad songs. I remember songs that, The Best of Times by Styx, Don't Let It In by Styx. My brother had a couple Styx albums. And I would sit there and listen to those, and I think a couple of Billy Joel songs. Let's see, what was it? Don't go changing to try and please me. Never, just the way you are. Yeah. So I listened to a couple of these songs. They're kind of sad sounding songs. And I would just feel like this incredible pain of being cut off from family and having to adjust to this life in a different place. And I realize in the grand scheme of things, like some of the things kids have to go through, that's not very significant. Some kids are abused or neglected. They got parents that don't care about them. They're bounced around with no real love in their life. I never had any of that. I didn't have real problems. But I remember feeling that pain of, missing people that I loved and just being, like I got to get out of this, and I would sit there and look out my window and feel sad. And it burned into my memory. Here I am 51 years old and I remember, that 10-year-old kid feeling that heavy pain of being cut off from all these people I love. And a little bit like childhood's over, like a little bit like the little childhood's over. Now I'm still in like elementary school, middle school, but just that feeling of like that childhood is like that chapter's closed when we moved, that chapter ended. It left such an important mark on me that I can remember it and remember exactly how I felt. Because it didn't feel good. It felt awful. It felt terrible. It felt painful. And I didn't like that feeling. Okay. All right, so inside you had a vague sense that you had never really been filled up. That your need for being nurtured had never been deeply satisfied. You started to look for things that would fill up this hole, this place of emptiness. And of course, what's the hole? Gluttony. The hole, the emptiness, is, we don't live in the Garden of Eden any longer, and all of us have something to grieve. And part of what the 7 grieves is that there's this emptiness or this void, or as Mick Jagger says, I can't get no satisfaction. Even though I try all these things and I fill up with all these experiences and even stuff, I really can't fill this void so that I never need anything anymore. I'm always still going to need something. All right, listen to what she says. Even at this young age, you found endless toys, games, other playmates, and other distractions to help you not feel your feelings. Man, That's kind of ouchy. That's kind of, yeah, that kind of scratches, because I did love toys. I think I loved toys a lot more than my brother loved toys. Like I wanted to stare at the magazine that had all of the whole set. So whether it was Adventure People by Fisher-Price or G.I. Joes or Star Wars figures or whatever it was I was interested in, it was the one I didn't have. That was the one I was focused on. If some new toy came out, they marketed it to kids like me. I was the kid that the commercials worked on. Like, oh my goodness, I need to go get that toy. And then I would have these friends who had all of these toys, and we would play, next to each other because I wanted to play with those toys. And so I was very fixated and fascinated by the toys I didn't have. I did play with the stuff I had, and I had a great imagination for that, but I very much was interested in the ones I didn't have. Very Seven-like, right? And so I wasn't consciously trying to not feel feelings. And some of the feelings, were pretty sad because we lived in a home my parents bought, but the houses on both sides of us were rentals. And so every year or so, the families would change in these houses, and I would make friends with a kid, and then the kid would move away. Or I'd make friends with the family, and the family would move away. I'd go over to the house and play, and then they'd move away. And so, that having people in your life and out of your life, in your life and out of your life, that's a lot of feels, and I would just distract myself away without realizing what I was doing. Okay. You got bored. Okay, so let's see. Toys. You were a kid on the move. Yes, on my bike, almost exclusively. You got bored easily. Yes. You couldn't tolerate not being busy. Yes. But notice, not busy doing the things that need to be done. So I didn't want to be busy, for example, cleaning the house or bathing the dog. Or I wanted to be busy, like riding my bike to the store and buying crap I didn't need. That's how I wanted to be busy. I wanted to be busy opening up toys and gifts and playing. I wanted to be busy, running around the yard with friends with light guns. They were just like little guns that shoot lights. They just it was like flashlights, but it looks like a gun. Run around the yard and play light tag. That's how I wanted to be busy. I didn't want to be busy organizing the garage. I didn't want to be busy piano practice. I wanted to be busy watching B creature feature movies on Saturdays with Dr. Paul Bearer. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff I want to be busy doing. Not busy being productive. I didn't want to do my book report. Oh my goodness. I can remember having to read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, which are probably really good books, but okay. Besides, there were so many interesting things in life to explore. You could be the center of attention and the life of the party, the initiator of all things fun. That was your mission, to have fun. Fun, by the way, to me, is a very difficult word. Somebody will say, let's say, hey, we got to go out on the boat. My daughter's having a birthday party. We're going to go out on the boat. I'll go with her. And then I come home and my wife says, did you guys have fun? And I'm like, there's like 47 levels of fun. What do you mean by this? And if I say, yes, I had, the highest level of fun, then does that mean I don't get more fun the rest of the month? Is my fun quotient used up? So I got to be careful how I answer this. And fun is just such a difficult concept for me. I don't know if it is for other sevens, but it's there's all kinds of levels of fun. Taking your kids to the Children's Museum is one level of fun. Sitting around at Chili's with friends talking and laughing and telling jokes, that's another different kind of level of fun. Getting on jet skis and riding around, out in the bay, well, that's a whole nother kind of level of fun. Going to Disney World and riding a new ride you've never ridden is another level of kind of fun. So what do you mean by fun? This is a very troubling concept. Fun. Did I have fun? And I know this sounds so ridiculous. It sounds so ridiculous when I say all this out loud. And probably for other types, they got to think, oh my goodness, you need help. You need help, Tom. Maybe I do. But I would say this. Probably the most fun is had when you can lose yourself in whatever activity you're doing. When you're not in your head. When you're not up in your head thinking about how this could be better, or what am I doing next, or the thing that's wrong with this amusement ride is it's too bumpy, or my head is banging into the harness, or when you can completely lose yourself and the overthinking in the event, so that when you get done with the event, you're like, wow, I lost myself into that event. I think in my mind, like, that is what real fun is like you're doing something that is so engaging that you're not thinking about how it could be better. You're not thinking about what's wrong with it. You're not thinking, why can't we do this every day? You're not thinking about all the stresses in life. You just lose yourself in the moment. And, when you think about it like that, if that's true, couldn't you lose yourself in the moment no matter what you're doing? I mean, like, couldn't you lose yourself in the moment eating strawberries? Couldn't you lose yourself in the moment sitting on a raft in a pool? Because sitting on a raft in a pool sounds very boring to me. Like, and that disturbs me. I want to be able to sit on a raft in a pool and be okay. Notice there's got to be certain music playing, there's got to be people talking, there's got to be food grilling, there's got to be... And then just sitting still on a raft feels like, maybe we can get a new mask and a new snorkel and swim around and throw things in the pool and dive for them. That sounds a little more fun. But in a sense, if I could learn to discipline myself, or learn to allow myself to go through the boredom until a certain level of peace arrives, where I could lose myself and my overthinking in the moment, then in a sense, I think I could have fun. When you're sitting here analyzing fun, you might be a 7. When you're over-analyzing and making fun into something that sounds like difficult, tedious work, you probably are a 7. And I realize that a lot of other people, they like just go out and do stuff, and they're like, oh, I had so much fun today. And I think with a 7, it's like, yeah, I kind of had fun, but more fun could be had. So what else are we doing? And when is enough enough, right? When is enough enough? I know all this. If you're not a 7, this has got to sound like crazy nonsense. But the struggle is real. And let's have some compassion for each other. So if you got a 7 in your life, this is the chaos that's going on inside. A kid on the move. Besides, there were so many interesting things in life to explore. You could be the center of attention. Your mission was to have fun. You probably heard, would you just settle down and focus on one thing? You always have to be going out and doing something. I can remember my dad saying so many times, settle down, settle down, settle down, cool it, settle down. Your voice carries, settle down. Settle down is the whole problem. Like, it's so hard to settle down. It's so hard to settle down and make a decision on what do you want. Go to the candy store as a kid and you're looking at all these options and they tell you pick one. 7 Wing 6, anxiety. Pick one? Pick one. Settle on one. This is the whole problem. How do I settle on one? And probably most of you think, just pick the one you like. You know you like this, take that. Yeah, but there's 100 other varieties out there. How do I know that the one I like is the best option? Sample, 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 sample. And so 7s become samplers at life, or renters at life, and have a really hard time settling down. Now, that's silly when you're a kid trying to pick, your favorite candy, and you're looking at all these flavors and all these options. But what happens when you are an adult and you have a family and you have a hard time settling with the family that you have? Now that is problematic. Or settling on the job you have. Because although the grass may look greener on the other side of the country, do you really want to have been the person that moves every 3 years to move to a better job. Is that a better experience? I mean, do 30 years of that. If you move every 3 years because the grass is greener somewhere else, then at the end of 30 years, you move 10 times. And is that really the life that you want? To move 10 times, 10 different communities, 10 different houses, 10 different startups. Notice how you are sampling at life rather than really settling in. And it's really hard to build something consistent with that kind of distracted, frenetic escapism. It's really hard to, people may not think that you are a serious contender in life because you seem unstable. And maybe you are a little bit unstable. All right. So is that experience of always moving on to something else, even though it feels right to you, sometimes there is great value in just staying a little longer than you think you can. And this gets at the heart of sevenness. Like, just sit in a chair for 30 minutes, even though you want to get up and do something else. Learn to stay longer in something than you think is possible. And this could be a very valuable trait going forward for your career or your marriage. Learning to stay in pain. Notice it's painful, so I got to get up. It's boring, it's tedious, it's not fun, it's not exciting, it's not thrilling, so I need to then move on. But this constant moving on is not necessarily going to bring you in life what you think it's going to bring you. It could actually remove many of the things from your life that you really want. And this is wisdom speaking now. This is wisdom and experience speaking, that maybe we need to tough it out, endure, and learn to be okay with a little bit of pain in our lives, or a lot of pain in our lives. You always have to be going out. Now, I'll tell you this. I remember being a teenager, and my wife, who is a two-wing one, a nurturer, okay? My wife, beautiful, beautiful wife. And when we were in high school, she was by far the most attractive girl in the whole school. And I don't know how or why she ended up with me, but she did. And I used to have hair, so that helped. But anyway, I remember wanting, as I worked at the local grocery store, Publix. I worked at the grocery store. I went to school full time, in high school. And I worked 30 hours a week, weekends, went to church and all the things you're supposed to do as a good kid. And then Friday would come, and I would say to my parents, all right, well, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive over to Traci's house. And she lived about 40 minutes away. So it took a long time to drive over there, and we'd go out to dinner and we'd watch a movie, and then I'd come home. And I'd say, I'm going to go see Traci. Bye, guys. And my parents, dad's a 5, mom's a 6-wing 5. All right. So they would say, oh, you guys, you don't need to be going out. You've been out all week. Yes, I have been out all week. I've been at school and at work. That's what I've been doing. Nothing else. School and work. And now it's Friday night or it's Saturday night, and I'm going to go out and see my girlfriend, and we're going to go on a date. You don't need to be running all the time. Why don't you just stay home? You're never at home. Why don't you just stay home? I remember asking them one time, what are we going to do if I stay at home? And of course they didn't have an answer, because I knew what we were going to do, watch TV. And I wasn't interested in watching TV. I wanted to go on a date with my girlfriend. And eventually I just had to lean into my 8-wing and say, I'm sorry, I love you guys, but I'm going to go see my girlfriend. It's Friday night. I love you, and I'll be home at 11 o'clock. Bye. And I had to just do that uncomfortable thing of owning my space and owning my voice and getting in my car and leaving and feeling bad that I left my parents at home, but it's Friday night. It's not unrealistic to think that when you're 16, 17 years old and you have a girlfriend that is the most gorgeous girl in the school, it's not unrealistic to think that's where I'm going to go spend my time. What are we going to do at home? Nothing. That sounds like a bad idea. But that whole, settle down, you don't have to be going out. Like, remember, I'm a counter 7, so I'm working all the time and in school all the time, doing the right thing, and now I want to go see my girlfriend. Underlying your attraction to all things interesting, you felt hurt, grief, and fear. So underneath, what she's saying is underneath all of this going out and doing things and, all this laughter and fun and excitement you think of with 7s, there's this boulder chasing us. That's the way I like to say it. Every one of us has like a boulder chasing us. Like Indiana Jones, the boulder chasing you. Underneath, what is it? She says, you felt hurt, grief, and fear. Fear type. Fear of missing out. Fear of being stuck. You did your best to keep your mind active, and you always looked for the next diversion. That is a powerful, powerful sentence. Diversion. Because it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I'm really interested in these things. That's the way it feels. It feels like I'm really interested in this. But notice 7s, how you're really interested in something for 3 weeks or 3 months. And then what happens? You're not interested in it anymore. You've moved on. Now, that doesn't mean that that thing you were interested in before isn't still interesting. It just means that now you've gotten so familiar with it that the boredom is starting to creep back up, and so you divert away from one diversion to another. And what I'm saying is it can be really hard to master anything when everything is just a diversion. You notice, it's not really that you're pursuing stamp collecting because you love stamps. It's because, what else would I do? You're not maybe really golfing because you love golf. You're bowling because you love bowling, or keeping up with Star Wars toys because you love Star Wars. It's just, what else would I do with myself? I would then be stuck doing nothing and bored, and I need some kind of diversion to focus my attention on. It could be guitars, it could be records, it could be collecting, it could be shopping, it could be dating people, it could be all kinds of unhealthy things. It could be drugs and alcohol. It could be all kinds of unhealthy things. But notice like that principle at work. And then if you can catch that, then maybe you don't have to sometimes be victim of where this could lead you, some of the unhealthy places in life this could lead you. You found yourself looking ahead, anticipating what the next fun thing would be. And notice, if you're looking ahead, then you're not really present. Okay, catch this principle. If you're always looking ahead to what's next, you're not really present in what you're doing. And when you're not present in what you're doing, it's impossible for you to really enjoy and have fun, because having fun, I said before, kind of by definition, is losing yourself in the moment. When you're on the jet skis going through the ocean, you're lost in the moment. The smell, the water, the adrenaline, the wind, the laughter, all of this, you get lost in that moment. And when you lose all of this impulsive thinking, it relaxes you and you feel fun. You feel light. You feel easy. You feel good. But when you're over-focused on what's next or what's happening next, you're not lost in the moment. And so notice how the very thing you're chasing, you're not able to really attain, because you can't lose yourself in the moment. Okay, so looking ahead, anticipating what the next fun would be, and you protected yourself against really letting other people in and letting them see the whole you. Because it's really hard to grab a hold of a slippery pig, right? They put all this oil all over a pig and everybody runs around and chases it. Ha ha ha, big fun day, right? But in a sense, 7s are kind of like the slippery pig. You're moving so quickly, you're darting in and out, you're here, you're not here, you're with us, you're not with us. And so it's really hard to grasp a hold of this slippery pig. And it's hard for people to really get to know you. It's hard for you to get to know yourself. Let me ask you this. This is a weird thought. You're the most fun person in the room, right? Why don't you have fun by yourself? You're the most interesting, engaging person in the room. Why don't you want to be with yourself? Why does that feel painful to you? Being alone, being by yourself. You came to orient your life around the idea, we're almost done, okay? You came to orient yourself around the idea that pain was not okay to experience, that it's unnecessary. Your life became formed around the idea that you needed to take care of yourself because no one else would really take care of you. What you didn't know is that your pain will not overwhelm you. It's instead a pathway to your deep satisfaction. Or think of it like ups and downs, right? If I only am there at the ups, well, the ups don't feel as up because I don't allow myself to really experience the downs. I've kind of turned off those emotional responses. So I'm a little bit dull to the highs. I need my highs to be a lot higher than maybe other people do because I won't allow myself to experience the lows so fully. Okay, so 7s are always working to make the highs higher. Speaking of high, 7s are the most addicted type. What you didn't know is that you have an amazing capacity for experiencing the depth and richness and gratitude of your heart. What you couldn't know is that when you are in the present, life is vibrant, fulfilling, and a place of awe. Well, and that kind of gets to the end of this video. And, at the end of all my videos, what do I say? Be present to life. Why? Because it's so hard. It's so hard to be present to life. Because my head wants to go to tomorrow and next weekend and what we ought to be doing. And, we could be in Gatlinburg, Tennessee right now. We could be skiing. We could be walking through the craft stores. We could be experiencing new things. We could be eating new food. We could be somewhere we've never been before. And it's really hard for me to be present in where I'm at right now because I can always go other places in my imagination. But going other places keeps me away from where I am. And when I'm away from where I am, I can't lose myself in the experience because I'm not really in the experience. Deep stuff, good stuff, challenging stuff. If you're a 7, have some mercy and grace on yourself. If you love a 7, have some mercy and grace. I know 7s look upbeat, positive, fun-loving, but 7s can be mopey, pouty, and sulky, and down and depressive. And 7s can really struggle with those things and anxiety and all that other stuff too. We could look a little bipolar sometimes. So try to be patient with your 7. Try to attend to them when you can, but when you can't, say, I'm really sorry, I love you, but you got to go find something to do. And, being bored isn't the end of the world. You'll be okay. Maybe you should actually think of boredom as like going to a gym. Like you go to a gym, you lift weights and you become stronger. You sit in a chair and you allow yourself to be bored and you become less affected by it and more able to be okay in the boredom. Because what happens one day when you're bored with your job or you're bored with your career, or you're bored with your family, or bored with your wife? You need to stay even in that boredom. All right, so be present to life, guys. I'll see you next time.